What's going on? We're here in downtown St. Louis. Is it downtown St. Louis?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
downtown St. Louis. Just finishing up a day with the Vibe team. I'm joined by Max Sadoff, head of inventory and quality control. Happens to wear more than just those two hats. I would say quite a few more. Thanks for taking the team and myself around today, man.
Yeah, man. Happy to have you.
It's nice to be back. You know, we were here at the end of last year. You guys have been really kind of building on a month over month basis with capacity, demand, new
Yeah,
products.
yeah,
We're here to talk and share with others a little bit of what's behind the scenes, you know, so they can learn a little bit more about Vibe. I've had the pleasure of learning quite a bit, but would love for you to share the story. You know, what is Vibe? Who is Vibe? What are you guys doing?
yeah. So, I mean, Vibe really prides itself on being the cool company for the culture. I can't speak to what our competitors are doing, but I know that we really look to embody just the freedom and the accessibility of the plant for everybody, as well as, just quality of medicine and accessibility in that notion to the general public. There with that quality, we also accessibility. You have to talk about pricing a lot. And coming from my background, I was in a cookies background. Cookies definitely likes to price their things at a premium. And while you have to value the work put in your product, at the end of the day, I think we do a really, really excellent job of making sure the general public, people who are they got families to feed, they're working a few jobs, but they still need their good meds, they still need that quality cannabis in their life. I think we do a great job of pricing for that accessibility point. So, making sure we're not pushing boof out, making sure that everything is up to the quality standards that we uphold as a company, whether it be, the gradient of hash, making sure that we're prioritizing overall just, storage, or just making sure that we're putting out the best quality product to the public and making sure that exactly what they're paying for is exactly what they're getting out of the product.
Yeah, I think, you know, one of the things that really appeals to me about what you're doing, at least from what I've observed here the last 6, 7 months, maybe it's even a little bit longer, that we've had the chance to really get to work together, is I see Vibe as one of the brands who's, you know, scaling and growing and really crushing in the regulated market, but has done a great job of bridging the gap between the traditional legacy experience and finding that kind of product that the consumer is familiar with on the regulated market, which not a lot of companies, I think, have found that right equilibrium in striking the balance between looks, feels, tastes like what you find from your traditional plug, but is available at the dispensary.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, it's a dichotomy. It's definitely a balance. And I think we're still even trying to ascertain a little bit more of that traditional market audience as well. And I think with that, I think it just really comes down to, like I said, accessibility and consistency in that accessibility, making sure that we have proper representation across the state so that each market and audience can have access to our product. And then, just a variety of products at that. We saw the shaman doing his thing with the hash holes.
Yeah, that's
Super,
great.
super fire. I've spoken personally with a few traditional market people who have sworn they would never enter, a legal entity dispensary. And as soon as they saw our hash hole for sale, they're going to purchase it. And that means a lot. I think we're not faking the funk here. Any idea that comes to fruition in the market is we gauge the reception on both sides of the spectrum. Each side is a consumer and an essential element in the market. So, I'm a big proponent of, we're doing good, but there's always room for improvement in multiple different aspects. And I do think we want to tap in a little bit more. Max Platt, director of Solventless, was kind of alluding to some of the larger products that he wants to push out in the market and the vision behind that a little bit. But yeah, I think it all boils down to, the variety of products we have and making sure we cater to all audiences.
I see that, right?
Yeah.
Just from the expansion of, as you're saying, the product line, you know, recently launching solvent based. Something that you and I were talking about was the uncertainty of what the reception was going to be like with that product, because it was one that was a little bit later to shelf in comparison to other producers.
Yeah.
what's been a pleasant surprise, and maybe not too much of a surprise, but you never know until you launch, is the success that you guys are finding, taking, the craft that you've displayed for consumers in solventless and now carrying that same expectation over to a solvent-based product. We had a chance to talk with Rob today a little bit about what he's doing. Tell us a little bit more about what's making the Vibe solvent-based products unique and how you're able to compete in the market, which obviously has plenty of solvent-based BHO-related products on the shelves. What are you guys doing that's unique? What's Rob bringing to the Vibe squad?
So I think Rob is one of the essential elements of that. I mean, all credit to him and his team. They're really educated on the processes behind that extraction method, I should say, and then as well as just the overall quality of the input material. You hear a lot about fire in, fire out throughout the industry, and it holds true in extraction, solvent-based extraction as well. I know Rob really he scours the facility to make sure that he's sourcing the most quality products to make his end solvent-based concentrate. And I think that's really the difference maker, is having the wizard behind the maestro to kind of pull the strings and make sure that he's getting the level of medicine that he needs. And he has a lot of background traditionally helping cancer patients as well. Oh. And I think that's where a ton of his passion and drive comes from, is, making sure that not only is he creating quality product, but that it really does truly help the end consumer at the end of the day as well.
Yeah, the passion and fulfillment was very clear from the conversation around his craft, which is something that interestingly enough, I feel is really carried throughout your guys' organization. We've been here a few times now to get to pick up on the Vibe.
Yeah.
It's definitely a fast-paced place. You guys are moving a lot of product. You're growing rapidly, but it seems like there's a lot of personalities in the organization, and that they're empowered in a way that maybe you don't always find in business in general. Put cannabis aside, but I feel that there's a unique culture here, which has been established and is growing. How would you describe the Vibe culture?
I love the question, man. I kind of tell it. I used to take on new hire orientation. For a period of time, I knew all 200 employees, first and last names. And what I would tell them is, at Vibe, we really prioritize working hard, but playing hard too. All work and no play makes Mad Max a dull boy. And I think everyone else in the facility can agree to that. We just had a kick-ass party at Sugar Fire that our CEO was gracious enough to host. And, people came through, had free food. We had some raffle giveaways. It was just a legendary smoke session in downtown St. Louis off Washington. And I think that's really what it boils down to, is work hard, play hard. Mm-hmm. And, to allude to the personalities here, I think we really encourage that, expression of uniqueness, really. Mm-hmm. I mean, like I said, you see it from Max to Rob to Adam, all the way down to when you're walking down our hallway, seeing people buck and harvest. I mean, you've got dope music playing. I mean, it's such a surreal place to walk around, be around, and work in nonetheless. I really do think it's Willy Wonka's factory, and that's how I've always traditionally introduced it to people touring.
How about just the opportunity that's being created for people to grow here? It feels like, even for yourself, you joined the organization at an entry-level role in the past 18 months, had the opportunity to work your way up, but that doesn't seem like it's something necessarily unique to you and just Vibe, but something more that Vibe's promoting within the organization, I would say. Is that fair to say?
Very much so. It's a good observation. Honestly, we really place a lot of value in work ethic. And I think what's so cool and what really contributes to the company's culture is, the notion that the sky's the limit to a certain extent. If you're here and you're hustling and your quality of work speaks for itself, I can really speak for almost every single lead and manager here. They want to put you in a position to succeed. People really, really care about working here. It's a lifestyle more than it is a career or a job. I've never myself in any career looked forward to coming into work every single day.
Yeah. Well, that's when it's not a job, right? You're doing something you're passionate about. You really, there's some love behind it.
Exactly.
For it to feel that way.
Exactly.
So, we were talking a little bit about, bridging that gap between traditional experience, traditional market, being something that's familiar to the consumer, moving that traditional buyer to the regulated market. In essence, is what I see Vibe doing with the products that you're putting out. You talked about accessibility. Accessibility to me means quality of product, different genetics dropping, and obviously price.
Yep.
Right. And to me, that's what Vibe has going right now, is that understanding of, we need to keep the strains and genetics on rotation.
Yeah.
You're doing it at an affordable number out the door after taxes.
Yeah.
And that you've built this level of trust with the consumer where they're just waiting for the next drop to happen. Right?
Yeah. 100%.
How do you keep that? What's in the pipeline? What's feeding that expectation for the consumers of what's the new, in the pipe?
Yeah, I think I can really attribute that demand and that hunger for more based on the interactions we have with the general public. Maybe a good thing, maybe a bad thing, but I think we're probably one of the more active presences on Reddit and in social media. I mean, all the way down to customer service. I mean, and it's all from our CEO's vision. The patients and the customers are the reason we're here, for their benefit. And if we do the disservice of not following through, making sure that all their needs and expectations are met, I mean, it's a true disservice to them. And so I think that's what keeps people, hungry and eager to see what else we're pushing out of the pipeline, is, the kind of silent understanding that, Vibe is going to, when they put a product out, it was with the best intentions. It was with the consumer in mind. And we never push out a product that the whole team doesn't really automatically know, like, yep, that's it. That's what I want. I want to spend my hard-earned dollars on that product. And I think that has a lot to do with the overall reception and demand for the general public. And then aside from also knowing, like, hey, if I ever have an issue or, God forbid something happens, I know that Vibe is going to take care of me. And I think that, it's a really wholesome, natural process that takes place. It's really the first I've seen. I mean, even working in multiple different big industries, I've never seen customer service at this level.
I can appreciate that. I think that's, definitely something that we're striving to build as we continue to grow.
Yeah.
Is very much, at the end of the day, when it comes to differentiation, it's truly, in my opinion, the only thing that controls long-term differentiation is the customer experience.
Yeah.
Because anybody can replicate what you're doing. They can replicate it. Yeah. But the people, the culture, ultimately create the experience that the customer feels and connects with, and you can't recreate that. That is where I see long-term differentiation, which obviously you guys are crushing at.
Thank you.
One of those things that you're doing, Tree 14, I'm a fan of the Tree 14 Vibe relationship.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit more about that.
Man, so I first met Jay I think it was pre-medical marijuana, even in St. Louis. It was like a hemp fest, kind of by SLU University. And I bought some seeds from him. I was like, hey, man, it's my first time growing. And he, off the bat, just like true to his colors, Tree 14 colors, he just was like, oh, man, you can message me anytime. Like, any tips you need to grow, just hit me up, brother. And then coming to find out, it was probably 4 years later, I find out, that we're looking to bring him on. And I had been following, his public addressing of the legislation passing for recreational. And he was doing full weekly Friday lives just to give the public information on, this is really what's going on behind this legislature that's being passed, and being an informed consumer. And then, I met him in-house, and he is just a ball of energy. You guys kind of got to meet him today. Very briefly, you got a taste of him in the hallway. But, I think, he also kind of embodies our culture. You can't fake that funk at all. He's been in this industry for almost his whole life, just decades and decades. And, that passion it's palpable. Mm-hmm. It really is. And I think, with each genetic that he shared with Vibe and that we've taken on and produced and offered to the general public, I think, his care and attention to detail is prevalent throughout each and every strain.
Yeah, I think, and when you speak to the just like infectious energy, I think that's what I feel in terms of what you're communicating around what Jay brings to the table is you can feel the passion and the love that he brings, and it carries over to others that, you know, he's surrounded by.
Yeah.
And that's important, you know, to have those kind of people that, you know, bring that to the table. I think many of us bring it to the table in our own ways, just as you do. I mean, you bring your own energy to the table that I can feel when we're talking, when we're in person. It's great. You can't get enough of that, in my opinion.
Yeah.
You know, positivity ultimately is what I feel when we speak, and I think that that's something I feel throughout the place when I speak with others here at Vibe.
Yeah.
So if you had to narrow down, you know, to one of the top things you love about Vibe and the impact it's had on you, what would that be?
Oh man, that is a big question. I think it's the freedom to be who I am unapologetically. You know, I came from a background where cannabis is still hyper trivialized, and that stigma is still there for my family. And I mean, even to this day. And I've had more just such powerful moments where brutal honesty. I tell somebody what I do, and I'm expecting to have it received in a negative connotation, and I'm met with, you know, a warm welcome and smiles and just intrigue. And I think, you know, that freedom to be myself and share that with even the office. I mean, it's a running joke. You'll hear me making funny voices over the radio, or, you know, just absolutely blasting some music and some Griselda in the office. Like, I love being able to share that part of myself with everybody and know that it's received and not falling on deaf ears.
I love that. It took me a while to find. I mean, I'm, you know, I'm a decade older than you, not that much, but still a little bit older. And I would say, you know, you think about your authentic self. A lot of us, you know, aren't necessarily in touch with that. And, you know, the things that we're really into, maybe we're not comfortable, you know, really being around those who we surround ourselves with. And we're not necessarily taught that, you know. So to hear that you are at a company that supports that and is bringing that out of you, I think there's room for a lot more businesses to be doing that for their people. So that's really cool to hear you say that.
Yeah, and I think you can even see it in the Vibe Family Wave wall.
Yeah.
I mean, we want to make everyone feel welcome and know they're a part of a family, and they're accepted in all shapes and forms. So it's an amazing experience to be a part of. I mean, this past year has absolutely flown by.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to many more.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having us here, allowing us to plug into the Vibe.
Yeah.
It's always a vibe, always having a good time, and looking forward to continuing to grow with you guys and alongside you guys.
Yeah.
And what the future has in store.
Yeah, no, I can't thank you guys enough for coming. You guys have been like awesome guests, and every time you guys come into St. Louis, I'm stoked, man. You've been absolutely killing it with the supply and meeting all the last minute requests I send your way. So thank you.
Our pleasure.
Thank you.
That's why we exist, brother.
Yeah.
Thanks, dude.
Dude, of course.
Appreciate you.
Sweating bullets.